If your agency is stuck at 10K per month, you're probably relying on referrals, maybe doing some sporadic outreach, and you're not consistently signing clients every single month. Some months are great, other months are slow, and you never know what's coming. But today, I'm going to show you the exact outreach system that takes agencies from 10K a month all the way to 50K per month plus, which is the exact same system that allows us to book over 200 plus appointments every single month, and last month to generate over 140K cash collected. So here's the problem with most agency owners doing around 10 to 20K a month, is 99% of the time what I've found after talking with over thousands of agency owners is that they're extremely reliant on referrals. And the problem with that, and there's no inherent problem with having referrals, in fact, it's a great thing to have referrals, the best type of clients. The only problem with that is you can't control exactly how many you're getting every single month. This is why people who don't rely on referrals have an easier time scaling, because they have something called an input-output equation, where they know if they do a certain amount of actions, they will get a certain amount of results. But when you're getting referrals and when you're relying on chance or luck or other people talking about your product in order to get new customers, you're not going to be able to control exactly how many you're getting, and therefore your months are going to be unpredictable and you're not going to be able to control how fast you can scale your business, which makes getting to 50K a month or even 100K a month incredibly difficult. So here's what getting to 50K per month and beyond actually requires. First of all, there are only two things that are going to affect how quickly you scale. Number one is the lifetime value that you make per client. That's what client is going to pay you for the lifetime of their contract with you on average. And number two is the amount of people you sign every month. The only two things that matter is sales velocity and LTV. Now, based on that information, there are only two things that we can do to obviously grow your business. Number one, we can increase how much a client is worth to you. Or number two, we can get more clients faster. Let's just break down the math in terms of how I would go about thinking this if I wanted to reverse engineer 50K a month for the average agency. So most agencies have a lifetime value for their clients at around 10K total, if obviously they're doing, a decent job. So they're going to make 10K in the lifetime of a client. If they sign 5 clients consistently every single month, obviously that's 10 times 5, which equals 50K a month. Now, to break down the actual math of how that actually happens and how you can get those 5 clients that are going to pay you 10K predictably, considering you have around a 20% close rate, which is typically the industry average, you need at least 25 appointments per month. The issue with referrals and relying on word of mouth is you have very little control over exactly what you need to do in order to achieve those 25 appointments. But if you have a system where if you reliably do a certain action or spend a certain amount, you're going to get a certain amount out, you can make sure that you get 25 appointments every single month so that you can actually get to that 50K per month. The difference between just hoping for clients and actually having control over your pipeline is you can know the math to pinpoint exactly what needs to be fixed in your outreach system to ensure that you get the numbers that you need to in order to scale the business. Because the problem is if you don't have the math around the exact amount of inputs that your system needs to have in order to get the results that you want, you're just basically hoping for the results without a predictable way of generating them. But once you actually know the numbers in your business, you can just go out, execute, and do the things that you know you need to make your goal happen. If you cannot control the numbers in your own business, scaling is going to be extremely difficult, which is why it's so important to have predictable outbound systems in place. Sporadic outreach is going to give you sporadic results, but if you have systemized inputs and systemized actions that you can take, you can get systemized outputs and systemized results and systemized clients being signed into your business. Now, in order for outreach to work, you have to have a proper offer dialed in for cold traffic. And the way you do that is by being extremely specific with your offer. So you've probably heard all of the Hormozy regurgitators just say, you need to make a big promise and you need to have a huge guarantee, right? But the thing is that doesn't work in sophisticated markets because people have heard that a million times. But on the other hand, saying we do bespoke marketing or we'll help you with your Facebook ad campaigns also isn't going to work because no one actually cares about that. So the question is, how do we do this? The way that you do it is not by having huge promises, but by having more specific problems specifically directed towards the exact client that you want to be targeting. So the question that you want to ask yourself when you're building out an offer and when you're building out a cold outreach campaign is, how would your market describe your problem? So if you were to, picture your ideal client right in front of you and you were to ask them, what is the biggest thing if you fixed in your business would grow it the most? That is the way that you want to position your offer. So for example, there's there's different levels of awareness depending on the market that you're in. The higher level you go, typically the more specific in terms of the metric that you are improving needs to be. So for example, if you're targeting beginners, saying we'll help you get more clients is probably going to work. A rung above that is we'll help you get more appointments, right? Because people, at the lower end might not even understand how appointments work. And then you get to start targeting some more sophisticated people. And then you talk about more appointments. And then there's, different metrics and different problems that people are going to have with appointments. And then, talking about we're going to improve your show up rate becomes a little bit more interesting the more, higher up sophisticated you go. And even above that is saying like, we'll improve your slot utilization rate. If you don't know what that is, that's basically more offers per day per closer, right? Which is if someone reached out to me being so specific that we're going to help you improve your slot utilization rate, that would be something that I would be interested in, because I have more belief in someone who's reaching out to me being so specific about the problem that I'm facing than someone who's just saying, we're going to help you get more clients. Because ultimately the main driver for me to actually take action on, any kind of advertisement, whether that's an actual ad or whether that's from a cold email or whether that's from a DM, is going to be the likelihood that I believe that this person can actually solve my problem. And if they are speaking my language and if they are being so specific in talking in the exact way that I would personally describe my problem, I'm going to be significantly more likely to actually respond to that person. So what you need to do is think about, what is my ICP? What is the way that they would describe their problem and the way that they would describe the solution that they want? And how can I speak like that inside of my messaging? Now, the way that we want to send this outreach is in a very specific sequence. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually enrich the leads, and we need to make sure that we're reaching out to people in a very personalized way so it actually feels authentic and it doesn't feel like you're just spamming them. The way that we do this is through a software called Clay. What we're going to do is essentially use a 3-step personalization sequence. So the first thing is we're going to get all of our leads in here out of all of the people that are in our niche. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add an AI personalized first line based on their website. So for example, what we do for ourselves, we do personalizations based on a company's case studies. So for example, we'll use ChatGPT to go into a company's website and we'll take the information on their website to reference in our first line. So for example, this client worked with Capital One. So we can say, I saw you helped Capital One at Salary Transparent Street achieve 10 million views. Impressive, right? So we're basically able to take information from their site and reference that so it makes it sound like we actually did some research. Now, if we fail to find the personalization based on their website, what we can do is we can actually use something based on a recommendation from their LinkedIn page. So for example, this Alexander person or whatever this guy's name is, worked with someone that, referred them on LinkedIn. So we're basically going to reference the fact that, Alexander recommended him on LinkedIn saying that they excelled in PR and inbound marketing, right? Which is something that was on their personal LinkedIn profile that they're going to know we actually did some research to find, or they'll think we did, right? And if we still can't find anything from a LinkedIn recommendation or a personalized website variable, we're going to look at the posts that they made on LinkedIn, and we will be able to use that to reference, right? So for example, this person posted something about, whatever this means, and obviously they worked with, right, which is like a games company or something. We're able to reference that, and again, just making it seem more personalized. And then if we still can't find a thing, we'll use just a generic fallback, but for 95% of the time, we're able to find something personalized about these people, which allows us to get higher response rates, right? What we're going to do then is we're going to move those leads into an instantly campaign on cold email, and we're going to move them into a Hey Reach campaign for cold LinkedIn outreach. Then once we have replies from those two platforms using the offer structure that I mentioned before, that's kind of how we'll build out the scripting, is we'll automatically be able to put these leads and route them back inside of Clay so we can scrape their phone number and so that we can auto dial them. So we have a setting team on the back end, and basically what that allows us to do is every time a positive reply comes into one of our campaigns, it's going to get instantly put inside of this campaign. We're going to be able to scrape the phone number of the person who replied based on their LinkedIn information. And it's going to use essentially a waterfall campaign to look at 16 different phone number providers to actually find the mobile phone number of the person who positively replied. Then what this is going to do is this webhook automatically gets sent over to a dialer that we have with a setter on standby who's going to constantly call these positive replies as they come in. So not only are we going to be able to book them from their original reply, but we're also going to be able to book them in over the phone. And if we can't get a hold of them on the phone, then what we're going to do is obviously just reply to their response on LinkedIn or their response on email, and then basically take the conversation from there, right? Now, if they do not book within that, 5-minute response time or when we, dial them instantly as they positively reply, they essentially go into a week-long nurture sequence. And this isn't just like, hey, did you see this, John? Are you ready to book a time yet? It's not like these like bumps that you constantly see that are super annoying. These are actually valuable. So what we're going to do is we're going to send them a valuable LinkedIn post or a valuable like thing on LinkedIn every day. Even if they positively replied on email, we're going to do omni-channel follow-up. We're going to send them something valuable on email. You know, whether that's sending them a YouTube video. Maybe you're watching this right now because we, just sent you a YouTube video. We could send them like a loom for, a personalized loom, for example, just going through their website and seeing, how our strategy could fit into their business specifically. And obviously, if you're doing this as a founder, you probably want to have a pre-recorded one, but nonetheless, it can be valuable. You can still send it anyways. And basically just hammering them with so much value that they feel it necessary to actually book a call because of the amount of value that you're providing to them up front. And then once we, go through this week-long value sequence, most of the people who end up positively replying are actually going to book in at some point. And that's how we're able to get the most amount of people in our niche to actually convert through the whole cycle, book an appointment. And this is especially useful if you're in a small niche where every single touch point actually counts. Now, I get a lot of questions in terms of like, what are the numbers in terms of what are the inputs? What's the volume that you actually have to send in order to achieve, the outcome that you want to. So I'll be transparent with our numbers and I'll show you the exact amount of outreach that we're sending right now for ourselves to generate over 150K a month. So what we're doing currently is we're sending 2,500 emails per day, which generates us about 16 positive replies a day in total, which is about a 0.6-0.7% positive reply rate. Then from those, we book about half of them, which turns into about 7, sometimes 8 bookings from cold email every single day. Now for LinkedIn, we send out about 800 connection requests every single day, which translates into about a 25% connection acceptance rate. And that's again, us using a ton of different accounts in full transparency. And then we have about 200 connections a day. And then from those 200 connections a day, we around get 36 positive replies and actually convert 6 of those into booked meetings just because we used a more general approach for LinkedIn. And we're more so looking to just get a positive reply so that we can contact and reach out to as many people as possible from those positive replies. Then in total, that gives us about 14 or so meetings every single day, which allows us to fill up our 2 sales reps' calendars and obviously scale to the level that we're at right now. Now, to go off and build this on your own, typically what I see is it takes about 6 months to 8 months to really fine tune everything and make sure everything is working properly. To, make sure you're testing new scripts all the time, testing new follow-up sequences, testing new, show up rate tactics and things like that. Typically when clients work with us directly so we can help them implement it, it takes about 1 to 2 months max to actually get set up, automatically running within your business to start generating consistent appointments every single day so that you can have more predictability over your inputs and ultimately over your revenue. So if you want us to help you implement this yourself, you can schedule a call with our team down below. It's just a low pressure demo call to show you how the strategies actually work and how it would work for your business specifically, more importantly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, scaling from 10 to 50 to 100K a month isn't about working harder or about finding the, new best strategy or just getting luckier with referrals. It's all about building a predictable system that you can know for certainty when you do something, when you take a specific action, you're going to get a specific result. And everything after that just becomes about executing those initial actions by doing more and by doing it better. And once you have a predictable infrastructure in your business, you can finally stop being dependent on referrals and ultimately fix those ups and downs that you're having in your business all of the time. So again, if you want my personal help to build this whole thing with you, you can click the link in the description to learn a little bit more, and I'll be happy to show you how it works.